Okay, here he is, the moment of truth. We're going to hang our first sheet. So we need to use our plumb line. Now coming over to our first sheet, we're going to set the plumb line right into the wall here. I like to use a plumb line, not a level, because this is going to be straight up and down. This mass right there is going to pull the string nice and tight. And you notice we're right about where our seam is going to go here, okay? So if you can go ahead and put your finger tight on there, yep. Go ahead and pull down the string just a little bit. And that's going to tighten it, and I'm going to go ahead right about in the middle and snap the chalk. Now automatically, if you notice, this has been transferred onto the wall, and that gives me the straight line in which I need to hang the wallpaper to. And also, if you notice, my chalk is yellow or orange. You don't want blue chalk because it'll come right up through the seam. One of the other things too that every smart wizard knows is you take your brush, and what you want to do is slightly just take the dust off the wall. And what this is going to do is now not have that dust come up through the seam, and you're not going to get any type of discoloration at the seam. So let's go ahead and start hanging. Okay, Janet, can you hand me the first sheet, please?
Sure.
Okay, great. Oh, excellent. Look at that. It's all been booked and ready to go. And we're going to go ahead and unfold the top here. Now I want to show you something really interesting about this. You know, remember we activated and booked the paper? I want you to look at the back of this paper. Look at all the adhesive.
Wow.
Do not paste a pre-pasted paper. That's one of the big mistakes a lot of people do. Now here's the other thing. I know which way is up because it's marked number 1 right at the top.
Okay.
Now here's the other thing. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to let the paper fold. And notice I did not unfold the full thing. The reason why the full sheet is because if I touch the floor, I'm not going to get adhesive on the floor, nor am I going to get floor in the adhesive. So we only unfold half the sheet at a time. That's why I had you fold it in half down at the table. Okay, now I'm going to come up onto the wall, and I'm going to go ahead and step on my ladder. We're going to come up and bring the first sheet up to the cut line. Remember, we have 2 inches of overlap at the top. And then remember that plumb line we just did? I'm going to take it right along the plumb line, and then I'm going to take my brush. Now, little secret about hanging wallpaper. Okay, always brush up and down, okay? Now, the reason we're brushing up and down is to get the air out. We're not trying to eliminate the adhesive. One of the worst mistakes a lot of people do is they take something like this and they do this. And it squeezes out the adhesive.
Yeah.
Bad news. And not only that, but I stretched the paper, and now it's not going to be straight. So a brush is designed to actually take out just the air and not take out the adhesive, because it's the adhesive that actually makes the paper stick to the wall. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do some trimming, and that's when we whip out this. Okay? Now the straight edge here that we're going to use is this 4-inch broad knife, and I'm going to use my knife, and I always snap the tip in the pouch. Remember that? Okay, now I'm going to lock the blade, and I'm going to take and score the top just like so, and I'm going to score down the corner, and now we're going to trim. Now, the way you do this is you put the knife in, you pick up the broad knife, you move the knife, pick it up, move it, pick it up, move it, pick it up, and you just come right along, and this trims off the selvage. Okay? Now, if you can, if you would, take the garbage and put it into the garbage can and hand me a wet sponge. And since I'm up here, I might as well go ahead and wipe off any type of residue adhesive onto the paint and onto the ceiling. So I'm just working right along here, very gently. Okay? And this way we're working together. That way you're saving me a lot of time, because I'm not up and down on the ladder, okay? And that is going to be, it wears you out a little bit if you're trying to do this. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to wipe a little bit of this off, and any adhesive or any type of chalk that might have come through. So I'm going to take that, give that to you. I'm going to walk down my ladder, okay? And I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to set this back so I can work. Now we're going to go ahead and unfold the bottom half of the sheet, okay? Now, automatically now, I can go ahead and just let it set and rest. I'm setting it to the plumb line. And which way do we brush? Up and down, okay? That's really important that we learn to do this automatically and not worry about going side to side. Now, the bottom is going to be the same thing here, where we're going to trim off any type of excess. And you notice now, look, you can see the full run of this pattern going up and down. Isn't that beautiful?
I love it.
Me too. I think it is probably one of the best examples of how a design can actually change a room and give us a lot of depth and texture. And we're going to show you that as we go through the room. You ready?
I sure am.
Me too. Okay, here comes number 2. Tell you, it can go up very quickly. If you notice, I hung that sheet maybe about a minute or so. And this is one of the reasons I like wall coverings, okay? I couldn't even do this in faux finish. Okay, we know the second one, because guess what? Number 2.
Number 2.
Okay, and I'm going to come over here, unfold the sheet. going to set it right up onto the wall, lining the pattern. Now, what's good about this is we can actually pick it up a little bit and move it around. That's one of the reasons we give it a little primer on there so that we have a little bit of slip. And I have, yes, adjustment. That's the right word. Okay, and I can go ahead and just smooth my paper right on the wall. Notice which way am I brushing?
Up and down.
Up and down, that's right. And I'm just trying to get the air out without getting out the adhesive. Boy, I tell you, that is a huge secret. I'm gonna reach up here and I'm just gonna trim along, and we have a nice tight line. And I'm gonna go ahead and set this along. You notice how I'm not tugging on this, I'm not pulling on it, I'm just very gently just setting the paper into place. And we get a beautiful, look at that.
It's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Like I said, I couldn't do this in paint, and
wow.
I am an excellent painter, believe me. We're gonna score the bottom, take our knife, trim the bottom, and there's your garbage, okay? Again, I'm gonna check, I always check, okay? Look at this, number three, that's right. Because we don't wanna get out of sequence, we can go ahead, hang this up onto the wall, line the pattern up. These are butt edge papers. Remember, do you remember what rule number 3 is? No overlapping, right? These are butt edge papers, which means that the pattern is matched right along the edge and right along the seam. So this gives me the ability to just go ahead and work very quickly and cleanly onto the wall like so. And also, if you notice, there's our key element. Remember that we chose that piece right there as being, and we didn't cut it off when we were down on the table. We made sure that we really focused on giving that attention on that piece of element right there, okay? And we're just gonna work really quickly, and we'll walk the top a little bit. Hey, we can work together, right? I'll do the top a little bit, you do the bottom a little bit, okay?
Okay.
All right, now I'm gonna move my ladder to in front, because I'm working in that direction. And I'm going to continue our process working and getting through the project very nicely. I'm going to unfold the bottom, and we set the paper into place, brush it up and down, always working into the seam, okay?
Wow, that folding trick just makes it so easy.
Manageable, yes.
Yes, it does.
Easy is the word. Now, we're going to do a quick little cutting right here, okay? I need to cut around my switch plate. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take my knife. Did you hear the snap? Okay, I always snap the blade. We're going to make one cut down, one cut here, one across the top, and then we're going to make one across the bottom. And what we can do now is go ahead and work the paper right around. This allows me now to trim the bottom part here. We're going to take this broad knife, give it a little score, take the knife, and just cut right along. Look at that. Absolutely exquisite.
That's amazing.
It is. Now, let's talk a little bit about seams. Okay, we've got like 1, 2, 3 sheets up, and this is where we're going to use our float. Now, the idea here is not to squeegee this adhesive out. What we want to do is this. You just want to very gently come down the sheet like this, okay? Now, the idea here is we're leveling the adhesive out. I'm not trying to squeeze it out. I'm trying to actually level the seam so that the seam will not open up. Now, these are very stable materials too, because they're made by Blue Mountain, and what it is called a non-woven material, which gives it a lot of structure, and I don't have to worry about the seam separating or having materials come apart on the wall. So I'm going to continue. Can you get number 4, please?
Sure.
Thank you. I'm going to line the pattern. Now, if you notice, I take great care, and I'm just going to wiggle the pattern, no overlapping. Again, brush the air out, not the adhesive, working up and down, just like so, just very cleanly. You know, a lot of people overwork the wall covering, and then they wonder why the seams all blow open, okay?
Yeah,
it's
very
just
lightly. Very
lightly. We're just trying to get the air out, not the adhesive, okay? Now we're going to do a little bit of cutting. Now this gets a little tricky because we could not remove this telephone, right, jack? So what I'm going to do is do a little bit of a cut down. I'm going to find the top over here, make a little cut down, and then find the little bottom corner, make a cut in, and find the other corner and make a cut in. Now, what we can do there is now cut this open so I can cut the tabs off. Now, what do we mean by tabs? You see, in order to get this, because I couldn't remove it, I now can get the paper to come right around this object. Okay, you know what? Wow. You know, it took us about 20 minutes to do that wall.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. I think it adds such great texture and depth to the wall.
I'm just really
Notice how
happy
it
with
scales beautifully. See this rhythm? I don't know if you can see this. See this big flower right here? And it goes right across. We didn't cut that off. That was our key element. It sort of creates this diagonal kind of a thing across the wall, and that's what gives it this nice big depth, and with the stripes going up and down, that gives us the height. So we're going to show you a little trick. Now we have to get into this corner here, so I'm going to show you a little way of approaching that, okay?
Okay.
Okay, Janet, I know this seems like it's daunting because we have these big full sheets and we have this little teeny area. Well, I'm going to give you a little secret how a wizard does this. Now, if you noticed, here is our exact pattern right here. Can you see the same pattern?
Yeah.
See the little crescent right there? Okay. Now this is the sheet that's going to go here, and here's, instead of trying to take the whole sheet around, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this and go upside down. I'm going to put it right in the corner like so. I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to come out about 2 inches, follow the stripe, and I'm going to cut that right off. Okay. Put it back in my plastic bag, okay, just in case we need a little extra piece, we may have it now. Now what I can do is, because we cut it this way, upside down, I'm now going to turn it right side up. And now it should be just the width we need plus that little extra that's going to go inside of my corner. And so then I can do what's called a scribe cut. You see how the pattern automatically, and this is so much easier to go ahead, and we've already pre-cut all the waste and everything off the paper itself. Now what I can do is trim down and get this paper now to go right inside of the corner. So I'm going to take my brush and just brush up and down. And I'm going to need probably a sponge here in a few moments, so if you can get that ready, I appreciate it. And I'm going to take my knife and cut right along. Remember, I'm always snapping my blade as I go. I'll trade you.
Okay.
Thank you, dear. And we're going to set it right up here. And now what I'm going to do is snap the blade. Listen. Always snap the blade. I'll tell you, that is one of the great secrets. And again, remember, we caulked all the corners. In fact, I caulked the inside corner so that when my blade comes right down along, you can see we get a nice, crisp cut. That is one of the great secrets. Now, you see that? That's our mud. So, yeah, don't worry. I can see your face. Like,
well, I thought it was the paint that was taken off.
You see, what's going to happen is I'm going to come back in here, and I'm just going to scrub that away. You see? And it's just going to go away.
Right off.
Yeah, and so we're not going to worry too much about that. Now, I don't want to over wash the paper because I don't want to take off our flock, right? So the idea here is just come in here very gently and just come back and forth. Sometimes what happens, though, too, you have to do maybe a little bit of a touch-up with the paint. So it's always good to have a little extra paint. But in this case, when that dries, you won't even see that edge.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and take my towel, please.
Okay.
I think I have one down there. And I'll switch out. And I'm going to come over here and just dry this off and work right down the corner. Okay, so here you go. And I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of this corner just by butting it up against the seam. And this is excess, so I'm going to have you throw that away. There you are. And just go ahead and work again right down, working the pattern, setting the seam. Okay, we use our float to set it just like so. Come down the corner. You see I'm working very easily, okay? I'm not trying to overwork, I'm not trying to stretch, not trying to over stress the paper. I'm just working the material down, and you can see that it's really straight. Okay,
fantastic.
It is. It really is. This is a very, very good selection for this room. I think the colors, the scale, the line, all the different things here, the stripe, all work really, really well to showcase this room and give you really lasting beauty for years to come. You know what's neat about this stuff? When we don't like it a few years down the line, we pull it and the whole thing comes off.
Yeah.
So like I don't have to go through all that stripping stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm going to again scribe right down the corner. Just like so. Pull off the excess, throw it away, and yes, I'll trade you. There you go. We'll just wash right down the corner. I like to always wash as the paste is fresh. If you let that paste sit on the paint, then you're going to see it sort of burnish or discolor the paint on the adjacent wall. So we're going to come right down like so, and we'll come back in there and let that soften up and just go ahead and rinse down that corner maybe a couple minutes, okay? So I want to go ahead and dry that off for me.
Okay.
Isn't that look amazing?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. This is number 16. I know it's number 16 because it's 15A that we did last. And it's marked 16 right there. So we're going to go ahead and take the paper up, but if you notice, we're coming into a corner. So that poses a problem. We do not want to wrap around the corner. We're going to do a technique called scribing. Now, I want to show you again how to do a tension cut. So we set the pattern and secure it up here with our brush. We're going to take our knife and we find the corner, make a 45-degree out and away. This now is going to allow the paper to go around the molding. That's called a tension cut. Now, we're also going to be very gentle to line the paper up, so we're not taking it out of shape, and because we have to align the pattern to the floor here, down to the bottom one underneath, so I don't want to knock the pattern too much out of alignment here. So I'm going to step back, unfold the bottom half of the sheet. And then again, rule number 2 says we cut inside corners. So I'm going to come back to that in a few moments. All right, it's sort of hard to see because, you know, we are working in tight spaces, but what I'm going to do is find the corner here and make a 45-degree up and away. This now allows the paper to go around the molding. So we can now take and align the pattern coming down around the window, and I can work the pattern just like so. Again, we want to avoid trying to stretch it. Worst thing we can do is stretch the material, because anything that we stretch is going to shrink back because it's wet. Anything that's wet shrinks. Anything dry, stable. So what we try to do is not knock it out of alignment or knock it out of parallel. So we're going to go ahead and trim the bottom. I'm going to pull out that. Okay, keep that little piece. Go ahead and throw that away. Okay, and what we're going to do is come in and trim around. Oops, got the drops here. And trim around the bottom. Throw it away. Thank you. And I'm going to come over here and trim down this excess salvage or waste. Again, taking the broad knife very cleanly, right down, very sharp tip. That's the secret. Remember, the broad knife, the knife, and the caulking are going to give us always a clean cut. And I'm working back up, score, snap the blade, and fresh tip. Okay, look at that. Pretty slick, huh?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, here we go. We're going to score that, trim up the top, and I could use I could use definitely a sponge, please. We're going to go ahead and remove. There we go. Thank you. Best that we try to catch, again, the adhesive while it's fresh, before it sets, on the face and all the moldings. Wizards work wet. So we don't want to get this paste to dry on these surfaces because it's about 10 times harder to get it off when it's dry than it is when it's wet. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me go ahead and dry this, and then we're going to scribe that corner. Okay, Janet, boy, I tell you, I can't think of a better corner to teach you something, and it follows the principles, the 3 laws that we need to use. Rule number 1, law number 1 says every new wall gets a new plumb line. So being this is a new wall, we're going to drop a plumb line. Also, we are going to wrap outside corners, cut inside corners. Now if you notice, I brought this paper around, but I left it here until I can get this sheet around, and then I'm going to scribe it, cut into the corner, take this little piece and match it up to this one. So this is what we call major plane, minor plane. Okay, because I don't want to take a little plane. It'd be hard to take this around because it's so teeny I can't drop a plumb line here, but I can do it over here and back up and get that angle correct. So here's what I need. That is, the plumb line has stopped moving. I want you to go ahead and put your finger right on the plumb line. Perfect, okay, and I'm going to snap it, and cool. Now we have our plumb line and we can begin our installation. Could you hand me 17, please? And I know it's 17 because it's marked on the wall, and it should correspond to the mark on the paper. Okay?
Okay.
Excellent. There we go. So let's go ahead and double check that. We'll open it up. And you know, less than about an hour here, we have done 17 sheets, and that is actually moving along pretty good.
Yes.
There it is, 17.
Great.
Okay? So here we go. We're going to go ahead and take this up, come right up to the plumb line. I'm going to line this up. And I'm also going to check to make sure my pattern is aligning around the corner. Now you can see we have plenty of overlap coming back in here, and that's okay. If you're going to lose a pattern, you always lose it in the corner, okay?
Okay.
So that is one of the little secrets that we learn about matching a pattern. I'd rather have it look straight and vertical and lose a little bit of a pattern inside the corner than to worry about trying to match this exactly. And I'm going to show you a little trick when we get there how this is actually going to work out, and it's going to look pretty cool when we're done. So sometimes it takes a little bit of working here to get everything just to align the way we want to. And I'm also using this edge as sort of to look at it and see how spaced that stripe is, and now I'm going to go ahead and set it. And if you look at it, it's almost exactly where the plumb line is and where the mark is that we put earlier when we did our layout. Remember the layout? Uh-huh. That's our roadmap, remember, for success, and it's following exactly the way that we want to do it. Now, we also have another tension cut happening here. You see, we can't get this paper to come around the corner, so I'm going to take and make a series of very small little cuts, and automatically now it's going to allow the paper to go right around that corner. Isn't that interesting how that worked? Yeah. Yeah, so these are little tricks. You use the same tricks over and over and over again, and different applications are going to give us different kinds of effects, and gives me the ability to be able to work the material and do the kind of workmanship that you'll be proud of for years to come. Working down the sheet, still at 17, we're going to go ahead and make another tension cut. And this is how we get around objects. Here we go. Make a little cut here. And we take our knife and we make another little cut inward, and this allows now the paper to break around the heater vent. We're also going to make a series of small, again, tension cuts, very teeny cuts, that goes right along the bottom, so that allows the paper to go around the bullnose. This is what we call a bullnose, a round corner. All right, we need to go ahead and finish up. Remember, we had our 16 coming around. I put my 17 back. We dropped a plumb line here. We brought the paper around the outside corner, but we still have this inside corner piece to actually deal with. So first thing I'm going to do is come in and cut the top, and then I'm going to take and scribe down the corner. Now, this is a very slow cut we want to do because we do not want to rip or tear. And what we're going to do is slightly bring the paper and the knife and the broad knife all in alignment, just like so. Now, just to be able to show you, as this is what I'm doing as I work down the corner, and you can see that not only do I get the seam nice and straight, but also if there's any pattern defect, it all goes in the corner. See, it's okay to misalign or mismatch in the corner, because that's not where you see a misalignment. You would see if the stripe was out of stripe here, or out of straight. But if you slightly, have a misalignment in the corner, it's okay. It's not where you see. It's not where I really am going to pay attention to all that much. So I'm just going to keep working down here, setting the paper, taking my float, just going down the corner, setting the seam, and then taking, and we can just tear that off. We're going to rip off the excess selvage, and I'm going to take my knife and again score break the paper. That scoring is very important because it allows and increases the paper so it's very tight into the corner. Take my knife, sharp tip, and go right down the corner. This again is called scribing the corner. It's one of the great ways that you can get the paper to look as if it matches, but doesn't necessarily have to match, okay? It's trying to now take the misalignment of wall to wall and burying it inside a corner. It's okay, well, you know, we're coming around. We obviously did around the door here, came around here and matched the pattern, and we are now onto a new wall, which means a new plumb line. Obviously, I've dropped a new plumb line right here. And what I'm doing is setting up to bring this paper, which I'll butt against this sheet here, come around inside this corner. And I want to show you a real slick trick on how to cut into this little area. So we're going to show you that in a moment. So let's go ahead and score the top and cut the top, just like so. All right, easy, easy. Now we're going to brush the paper, and I'm making sure that it's right along my plumb line. Now we're going to do also a tension cut here, which means what I want to do is take my knife, make a little teeny cut here, and then what we're going to do is actually slice across. Now I know this seems like, oh my goodness, what about that? But remember, we cut some extra paper to go around here, which I'm going to show you how to do a match into a odd or wrapped shape, which is right here along the cabinet. So we'll get back to that in a few moments, all right? But the important thing that we're trying to understand here is how to actually set up for this corner. So I've got my piece of paper here, which I know is 22. It should be marked at the top as 22. Oh yeah. So we're gonna go over here and set the pattern right along the inside corner and the seam. This is automatically going to lay us up here to come into and around and pick up that corner. Okay, so let's go ahead, take our time matching the pattern. You know, this is what makes a great seam, is taking the time, smooth all the bubbles out, make sure the seam is nice and tight. But with the seam, do not go side to side. It will automatically squeeze out the very thing that would have, could have, should have held the paper to the wall, the adhesive. So we're not going to be scraping or squeezing. Now, if you notice, I'm doing a little teeny slider cut here. This now allows the paper to come around this corner. Now, a little teeny corner like this, we don't have to cut into. All right, that is really going to save us a little bit of time, and it would be near physically impossible. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the top of my sheet here, and also the top of the preceding sheet, which means that it's coming around inside the corner. Now, this is a really simple way to realign a pattern. Now, we're going to do a technique here called double cutting. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Take my knife, I'm going to set it right here, and I'm going to cut through both layers. I'm going to remove the top part. I'm going to open up, remove the under part, and now we have a perfect seam. A little bit of issue with pattern. We can now make it look as if it flows around the room without actually having it physically go around the room. I'm going to take my time and continue working down the seam, just like so. Now, let's show you how to do this cut right here so that we don't have to we can't get our knife in there, can't get my hand in there, so here's what a wizard can do. Take your knife, and you very gently take it and just slide using the molding itself as the guide. Now, this gives me the ability of just tucking the paper right behind there and give you a nice clean edge. Okay, so this is a way of dealing with some of the physical limitations that you have of a room and the way that you have to handle pattern onto a wall. So let's continue on, taking, brushing, and working. And we can go ahead, and any type of waste that we have, we can trim off. I mean, you don't have to keep fighting the waste or the selvage. We'll go ahead and throw that into our garbage. There we go. And don't make any cuts until the paper face is on the wall. It's another mistake that can be a costly one because we don't want to have a short cut here, which means that we'd run out of material. So I'm going to take the knife, just slide right up the corner, and then tuck it in. This gives you a very clean, and it looks as if the paper is going around and in the corner there. So it's a great illusion, nice little trick. You can always come back and trim a little extra if you have to, if there's a little extra rollage. Okay, let's go ahead and work down, open up, align to my plumb line, And again, we have an outside tension cut to deal with. So we're going to make a little cut here, little teeny cut there, little teeny cut right there. And this now allows this paper to wrap around the outside corners. Remember the outside corner trick? We got to wrap it. And we do that because if we leave an exposed edge there, number one, it could lift. Number two, it doesn't look very nice if you have an edge because you see the white backing of the paper. So this is not only a technical thing to make sure that the paper is going to not lift at the outside edge, but it's also an aesthetic. Make sure it looks really nice when we're done. Okay, so let's go ahead and just work the sheet, set the seam. You notice how repetitive this is, and that's also gives me a lot of confidence because when I do something more and more, the better I get at it. So I can just take my time and keep using these same little procedures over and over again, and I get very comfortable with the use of my tools, the position of my body, and how I'm setting the actual wall covering. Okay, now we're going to start to get really interesting here. Okay, so what I need to do is find the wrap. Find the corner, make a little teeny cut out, and slide to meet that. Now that automatically is going to give me a couple of things. It's going to give me the pattern that wraps underneath. I can now trim away some of this selvage. I now can come in here, and this is going to wrap around this outside edge. This is a bull nose. So what I'm going to do is take my knife and just very free-handedly come in and just cut. Now this takes a little bit of skill, okay? It takes a little bit of practice. And this now will allow the paper, and we're going to use this line right here to follow right around the curve. So very gently, okay, I want to come along, cut into the brown, and we get a really precise, clean cut. Now, we have this. Remember I said we're going to get back to that. And I'm going to show you how to do a very interesting concept here called a double cut wrap. Now, double cut wraps work really well when we have any type of windows that are non-cased. Now, what does that mean? That means that they're not got a framework like the moldings back here, and we have to go into it. So first thing, this is going to sound counterintuitive, but the first thing we're going to do is trim out this piece. Okay, we're going to take it right out of there, just like so. And it's like, oh no, I got a big hole. Well, remember, we cut extra paper. This was the T that what Dan and I had talked about earlier. And I'm going to take this piece of paper, I'm going to cut it so it's about, an inch or two wider. Now remember, this is the same match as the top of the wallpaper here. And it is just long enough that's going to go inside of this wrap. So I have the match, and I have enough material to go inside, and I'm going to take great care to match the pattern and smooth it out. And we're going to do a double cut here in just a few moments. Now, let's go ahead, and I cannot stress this enough, is to take your time and make sure all the seams are set, that you trimmed off everything, and you're happy with the position of the pattern. Go ahead and trim that off. Now, here comes the real secret of doing this. We're going to take our knife, and we're going to make a little teeny tension cut here so that the paper will go right here in the inside corner, will wrap inside. So now we've got the face to match, but now we have the pattern matching, and we have no exposed edges, and we have a seam that comes right in underneath. Now we're going to do a little bit of trimming here. So this is going to now give it the illusion that this paper actually matches. Now here's the secret. We're going to come along just very gently, take our knife and scribe here, take the knife and the broad knife, cut in and across, and this gives you the ability here, taking the knife, just open the blade up, and it'll just cut right along and give you a nice rounded edge. I have to come from the top to be able to see it. There we go. And there we are. Beautiful. Okay, now we are still left with this overlap. Remember, rule number 3 says no overlapping. So let me prove that to you. Here's the lap here, and here's the original sheet. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take our knife, and we have a straight edge here that we could use, but I'm just going to show you how well this technique really works. I'm going to freehand it. Now, why did I do a wiggle? Well, no big deal. I just wanted to show you that it'll still match. But also, by doing a little wiggle, it's going to lock the seam into place so that when I go ahead and remove this paper back in here, is that automatically now this pattern is going to match right into place. You'll have no overlap there, and the pattern will continue, and you have the wrapped edge, so you have a continuous material, and that is really the right way to work a rounded corner or any type of cased window.